We're delayed just for a minute here while Commissioner Anderson gets his IT figured out here, so bear with us. I'd like to call the Butte-Silver Council of Commissioners regular meeting for Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025 to order. Clerk, can we please have
12 present, 0 absent.
12 present, 0 absent. 0 absent. And so, Commissioner Walker, could you please lead us in the prayer and the pledge?
Almighty God, we implore you, look upon us and guide us this night as we make decisions which so greatly affect our community of Butte-Silver. Direct our thoughts, words, and deeds so that we please you and best serve our fellow citizens.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we'll move on to any public comment on any item on the agenda tonight. If you'd like to speak on anything on the agenda, please come forward, state your name, your address, and what item you'd like to speak about tonight.
Dave Hutchins, 529 South Colorado. I'd like to speak to the comments to the EPA on the lead plan. And I will be making my own comments. And, you know, I agree with everything in that letter. I think it's well written and well thought out. But I did think there were a couple points that you all should consider with the leverage that you might have. And so one thing is about the UAO. So if you remember back to when the consent decree was lodged, the RMAP plan was pulled out of that consent decree right near the end. And I never got a good explanation of why. I know ARCO asked for that. And I'm not sure when council was made aware of that. And so if that was discussed, I would love to hear more about it. But as far as I know, that was just sort of slipped in at the last minute. And so I think it's really important when considering this lead plan to bring that up again and try and push for this to be brought into the consent decree, amended into the consent decree. I know you can't force ARCO or British Petroleum to consent to anything, but you do have a position where you can push for that and ask about it. I think that's important. The other thing is unwilling landowners. Right now, only the landowners themselves can initiate RMAP cleanup. And I think that is going to be part of why this drags on forever, is there will always be recalcitrant landowners, and a lot of them are landlords. And in that position especially, I think it's really important that they are getting their places tested for the benefit of their renters. And I'm not sure how Butte-Silver might be able to put some more pressure on these landowners, but I think EPA has proven that they can't. You know, a strongly worded letter is about all they can do. So I would encourage you to think about those two aspects as you send this letter in. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchins. Is there any other public comment on any item on the agenda tonight? Yes. Clerk and recorders. Yeah.
Oh, we just have one from Mary Lou Fitzpatrick that came through email.
Okay, so we have a letter to be just entered into the record from Mary Lou Fitzpatrick. Okay.
Correct.
So that'll be entered into the record. Commissioner Fisher?
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I also have a letter from Fritz Daly that I'd like to have entered into the record. I'll hand it to Claire.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Okay.
Good evening, Chief
Good evening.
Executive Gallagher, members of the Commission. First off, I want to thank you for your service to our community, to put up the time and get involved in what you do in our government. Thank you. But I'm here today to ask you to take a firmer step when it comes to lead abatement, when it comes to the cleanup of our community. I do agree with the letter from Mr. Hassler, but it's not the letter that should be coming from Butte. That's a letter requesting on how the RMAP program can be worked and how we can work better to clean. What we need to do is take a stronger position on the timeline of that cleanup. I have an 18-month-old grandson who will be graduating high school or even turning 30 years old by the time the lead is cleaned up in this community. We lived through this lead poisoning, many of you, your children. It's time to get firm. It's time to demand. The letter to me is very soft. It's very easygoing, and I think it's time for Butte to quit acting like we're begging and start demanding. We're in a better position. We need a cleanup here in 5 to 6 years. Why can't we have that? Why does it have to be 15 to 25 years? Why didn't we need more studies when we already know the homes have been cleaned to 1,250 parts per million, and now, thankfully, we're going to go to 175. But why do we have to wait? I just ask for the commission. I agree with Hassler's letter on many of his points, but the commission needs to stand up as the representatives of the taxpayers of this community and take a firm stance demanding a cleanup be done in a much shorter time frame. We deserve it. We've waited long enough. It's been 30 plus years waiting for a cleanup in this town. Why do we need to wait 25 more years? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Do we have any other public comment?
Yeah, members of the commission, Chief Executive Gallagher. My name is Fritz Daly. I'm a former 7-term Montana legislator, and I'm also a lifelong resident of Butte. And every time I come before this council, which has been numerous times over the past several years, I always kind of start with one statement. My statement is, I come here as your friend and as a concerned citizen. And what I want to talk about tonight a little bit is the lead level. I'll keep my comments short, but I thank Commissioner Fisher for entering my letter, and y'all have a copy of it. I don't think you need to read it, but Mr. Commissioner Fisher, but thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. The most important thing that I can always say to the commission is Butte needs and deserves the best cleanup possible. There's no question about that. And that's using the best technology that's available and the best science that's available. And most importantly, as I discussed in my letter, Butte absolutely needs a responsible lead and arsenic, what they call now action level cleanup. We need that for our community to make sure that our children are living in a safe and healthy environment. And as I wrote in my letter, and I stated that, you know, if one child in Butte, if just one child in our community, you know, faces an issue because of excess blood level or arsenic level in their bloodstream, it's one too many. It's absolutely one too many. And if they also may do that because of us not properly cleaning areas like Stodden Park. So I know I'll probably get cut off here in a couple minutes, so I just ask that you do the best that you can in your decision-making process here and do the due diligence that's really necessary to make sure that we do get the proper cleanup in our community and make sure that our children are living in a safe and healthy environmental community. Butte-Silver Bow, as you all know, has been a Superfund site for 43 years now. That's how long we've been a Superfund site. And the agreement in principle was reached over 7 years ago. The agreement in principle is just a document that says what each of the parties are responsible to do. And that's over 7 years ago. And that consent decree was reached over 4 years ago. And so those are issues we're facing that we probably haven't dealt with as well as we should have. And I always like to say that the decisions that are made today concerning the Berkeley Pit and Montana Pole site and Walkerville and wherever else, I mean, and what we're talking about here with lowering the lead levels, they're the most important decisions that you will ever make as a legislative body. It's the most important decisions you will ever make. So work hard at it and make sure you do the right thing for our community. The community needs it, and I wish I could speak a little bit longer, but I guess I can't. So I appreciate you listening to me from what I had to say, and I appreciate you reading the letter that Commissioner Fisher has, and I have great respect for all of you, and I know you have a difficult job. So thanks for listening to me, and we need you, buddy. We need you right now. We really do. This community needs you, and we need you to make sure you do the right thing. Thanks for letting me speak to you.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Is there any other public comment on any item on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to the Chief Executive's report. First, I want to thank the members of the public that came forward and spoke. We have heard comments from the public from last week, from discussions that we had here last week, and so I think that there'll be further discussion as we went, but we have reworded the letter. We've put emphasis on different parts of it, from things that we heard from the commission, from things we heard from the public, and we haven't changed the content, but the urgency and the priorities, we've kind of put more into that, and so more to come with that, and I think that there'll be some discussion around that tonight. So we appreciate that. As Mr. Daly did, we all want the best thing for our community, and I don't think anyone in here disagrees that one person that gets sick from lead or from arsenic is one too many. We all agree with that. It's how we get there, what we can do to move this along, because the priority and the urgency is there. So we've heard the public. We share much of the same concerns, and like, I think a lot of people looked at the letter and agree with much of the content in the letter. It's just, could we reword it and put a little more urgency in it? And so I think we heard, and so we've changed some things in there, and so we look forward to having that discussion about that tonight. Also, with that, we're in the heat of the legislative session. There's a lot of bills and things that are out there, and our local government is paying attention closely to the things that are happening in the legislature. And Mr. Daly, thank you for your years of service there, because it's a 90-day full court press over there, and there's over 4,000 bills currently that are being proposed already in this legislative session, and to try to keep track of what's going on there and what's happening is daunting, to say the least. We had testimony this morning on Senate Bill 117, which talks about the funding formula for local governments and how they tax, and we're against it, but there's more conversations to come that may be something that could come out of that. I also tonight at 3:00 I testified against Senate Bill 94, and that was about union labor. And, they're taking the position that unions shouldn't be able to negotiate locally with government during the workday, that everything should be outside the workday. And I've said it on both sides of the table on union negotiations, and I've been there negotiating for unions, I've been there negotiating for the administrative side of it and for local government. And we went against this, or I did personally in this, because the administrative costs that would come of that, to say that everything has to be negotiated outside of the workday. The people that are there for the administrative side are your salaried staff, non-union, exempt and non-exempt employees that we would be paying overtime. You'd be paying, you'd have comp time, you'd have much more costs that go along with that as well. And those negotiations are important for local government, because you're talking about fair salaries, fair benefits that are being fairly negotiated through collective bargaining agreements. So I testified against that today. We'll see where that goes. But as we said, Jim Cambridge for us in my office is following the legislative session closely. We have our lobbyists in Helena. If there's things, I've been telling everybody, all of our directors, administrators, people that work in conjunction with local government, if there's something that pops up in the legislative session that we have concern about, please let us know. We're trying to track everything we can, but like I said, 4,000 bills is an impossible task. We're trying to pay attention what happens there. Medicaid expansions on the table, lots of different things, and so more to come with that. So we'll keep our emphasis on property tax relief. That's going to be really important for us over there, protecting workers. I think, I don't think anybody in Butte could ever think that not supporting our unions wouldn't be a good thing here. So we'll continue that position as well. So with that, I'm going to close out the public hearing. I think we have a pretty good agenda tonight, and so I'll close that out, and we'll move on to section. I apologize. We're going to move one communication forward ahead of section 1. So out of section 3, communications to be read. Oh, we forgot to do the minutes, didn't we? I jumped the gun. We got to approve some minutes here. So I'd like to approve the minutes on the January 8th, 2025 meeting. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I'll make a motion that we approve the January 8th, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
We have a motion and a second to approve the January 8th, 2025 regular meeting minutes. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
12 yea, 0 nay.
12 yeas, 0 nay. Motion passes. Now we'll moving an item from section 3, communications to be read and acted upon, and we'll go to item number 2, communication number 2025-40. J.P. Gallagher, Chief Executive, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence of the appointment of David Gary as Director of Community Enrichment for Butte-Silver Bow. So first I'd like to speak to this a little bit. We put out for the, as people may or may not know, John Moudray retired as the Community Enrichment Director as of December 31st of this last year. And so then we immediately went out for a search. This is an incredibly important position within Butte-Silver Bow, and having somebody in that role was important. And so we went out for applications. We went outside and inside and interviewed 5 candidates, and our preferred candidate and one that stood above the rest based on experience and everything of this was Mr. David Gary. And what brought us to really realizing that we're fortunate to have Dave, he was land records manager for Butte-Silver Bow, is his experience not only in Butte-Silver Bow, but he ran a department in the DEQ for the state, and he was based out of Butte here. He ran the department over something that dealt with a lot of regulation, code, or what we would call ordinances, but laws under Montana's code. And so he understands how regulation works. He understands working with people, and he understands difficult situations. So he rose above, and we are very privileged to bring Dave forward. So with that, I'll move it to Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I'll make a motion that we approve communication 25-40.
We have a motion and a second to move communication or approve. I thought you said to approve communication number 25-40. Is there anything on the question? Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I see Dave out in the audience,
Yes.
and I'd like to give him an opportunity to address the council if he so chooses.
Yep. Welcome, Mr. Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Shea, members of council. I'd just like to say thank you to Commissioner Gallagher and his hiring team for putting their trust in me to lead the Community Enrichment Department going forward. I look forward to working with him and the other departments and the council and our citizens, and making Butte the best we can be throughout our community. So my door will always be open. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or concerns as we move forward.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave. I just wanted to speak a little bit more to him. You know, Dave has 21 years in the Montana Department of Quality. He's got 4 years with Butte-Silver. Born and raised here, Butte guy. Had a chance. DEQ wanted him to move. He didn't move. He stayed here because he wanted to stay in Butte. It shows his loyalty of all things Butte. And we had some really good qualified candidates in this, but again, he rose above. And not positive of his family that is with him today. I believe we do. And so thank you for being up here and celebrating with Dave today. It's an important achievement for us. I see the Wanacott family out there. So thank you for being here today, and we look forward to it. And now we got to make an official, make it official and take a vote on this. So any other questions or comments? Yes. Yep, sure.
I just wanted to congratulate you, and I'm looking forward to working with you, and I will be knocking on your door because I need a lot of clarification. So, thank you. And congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioner Healy. So, yeah, thank you. So, any other questions or comments from commissioners? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
12 yea, 0 nay.
12 yea, 0 nay. Motion passes. Motion passes. Congratulations, Director Aguirre. It's a big job, and we really appreciate you stepping up to do this. So go ahead out and celebrate with your family. All right. Moving on to Section 1, bid openings and public hearings and our presentations. We have a few public hearings and a few bid openings. County Attorney, do we have proof of publication on all the public hearings and bid openings tonight?
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, yes, we have proof of publication on all of the public hearings and bid openings for tonight.
Thank you, County Attorney Enruth. So we'll move on to communication number 2024-579. There's a reason I bring these glasses. Angie Mulligan, Public Works Budget Manager, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence to schedule a public hearing for January 22nd for the purpose of amending the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget to allow for increased expenditures of unanticipated revenue, which is a donation from the Stephen Tomasich Estate for the Animal Shelter Remodeling Project. So, Ms. Mulligan, welcome.
Chief Executive, Council of Commissioners, thank you. This public hearing is to amend the Animal Services FY25 budget to include the donation from the Stephen Tomasich Estate in the amount of $127,800. These funds will be used to complete Phase 2 of the animal shelter remodel.
Thank you, Ms. Mulligan. Are there any questions of commissioners? Commissioner Healy.
This is from a citizen, and I didn't know the answer when they asked it to me. So the question was, if the county owns the building, why should a donation be used for upgrades? Shouldn't it be used for food, bedding, blankets, medical, and other needs?
I think Commissioner Healy, I can answer that question. The donation was not specified that it needed to be for that. We have been soliciting, public comment information about the upgrades to the animal shelter. It's a proper use for it. We just got the kennels done last year. The costs that are associated with it allows for better care of the animals, better care of the staff, and better care of the public as they come in. So where the staff currently is, it's incredibly noisy. It's hard for customer service. It's hard for the care of the animals and things like this. It allows us to finish Phase 2 of this project. And I'd invite if Animal Service Manager Hogarth would like to come up, if she would like to expand on that, but I think that. Is that,
Yeah,
but
I'm good.
let her speak a little bit to what this means to the animal shelter.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioner Healy, Commissioners. The question, to answer it, the Butte-Silver Bow actually pays for all of our food and needs like that. So this gift that we received, we could not have done the improvements that need to be done to the shelter without it. There are so many upgrades that need to be done at the shelter that we couldn't have afforded to do without this gift that was unrestricted. It was such a lovely, really a godsend from the Tomaszich family. But the way that the shelter's laid out now, the front part of it is not very user-friendly, just to put it that way. So this will enable a lot more people to come into the shelter. It will enable more people to interact with the animals and have more time with the staff, and the staff will be safer. It's just going to be a lot user-friendly. So, yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Holgard. Appreciate that. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments from commissioners? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. First call for proponents. Second call for proponents. Third and final call for proponents. Next, we'll move to opponents. First call for opponents. Second call for opponents. Third and final call for opponents. We'll close the public hearing. Moving on to communication. 2025-13, Karen Malachny, Butte-Silver Bowl Health Officer, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to schedule a public hearing on January 22nd, 2025 for the purpose of amending fiscal year 2024-2025 budget to allow for increased expenditures on unanticipated revenue resulting from a contract with the Montana Department of Health Human Services for crisis diversion efforts. Welcome, Director Malachny. The light doesn't light up, but just check to see if it's working.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher, members of council. For the record, I'm Karen Malachny, Health Officer for Butte-Silver Bow. Tonight, I'm here asking for permission to amend the fiscal year 2024-25 annual budget. This money is in the amount of $552,250 to establish mobile crisis services here in Butte. And when we were doing our budget last year, the grant wasn't in place yet, so we just received the funding. So we're asking for permission to put it into the budget.
Thank you, Director Malachny. Any questions of commissioners? Seeing none, I'll move to opening the public hearing. First call for proponents. Second call for proponents. Third and final call for proponents. Move on to opponents. First call for opponents. Second call for opponents. Third and final call for opponents. We'll close the public hearing. Moving on to item number 3, communication number 2025-14, Karen Malachny, Butte-Silver Bowl Health Officer, requesting Council of Commissioners schedule a public hearing on January 22nd, 2025 for the purpose of amending the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget to allow for increased expenditures of unanticipated revenue resulting from a one-time funds to supplement our family planning clinic. Director Malachny.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher, members of council. This one-time funding is in the amount of $20,533,000 for use in our family planning clinic. This funding will be used for cosmetic and outreach materials, small equipment, technology, training, education for staff.
Any questions of commissioners? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. First call for proponents. Second call for proponents. Third and final call for proponents. Next, we'll move to opponents. First call for opponents. Second call for opponents. Third and final call for opponents. We'll close the public hearing. Moving on to item number 4. Communication number 2025-15, Karen Malachny, Butte-Silver Bowl Health Officer, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to schedule a public hearing on January 22nd, 2025 for the purpose of amending the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget to allow for increased expenditures of unanticipated revenues resulting from one-time funds to supplement our family planning clinic operations.
Thank you, Chief
Director
Executive
Malachny.
Gallagher, members of council. This amendment, we're asking for the fiscal year 2024-25 budget is in the amount of $9,203.67. This was an amount that was actually taken out of the family planning budget during our budgeting process, but they reinstated it back to us, so we're asking to put it back into the budget.
Thank you, Director Malachny. Are there any questions of commissioners? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. First call for proponents. Second call for proponents. Third and final call for proponents. Next we'll move to opponents. First call for opponents. Second call for opponents. Third and final call for opponents. We'll close the public hearing. Next we'll move to bid openings. Item number 5, communication number 2024-582, Mark Neri, Public Works Director, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence to schedule a bid opening for January 22nd, 2025 for the 4 cubic yard wheel loader for the Roads Division. Director Neri.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Looks like we have 6 bids for the wheel loader. The first one is from Western States out of Missoula.
County Attorney, oh, never mind. We already asked that. Yep. I'll ask you for a bond. So it's number 3 on this, on your list. Huh? No, he'll give it to you and then we'll.
Commissioner Gallagher and Commissioners, it appears that they have placed a bond in the amount of, if I can find it, 10% of the bid, which is not on here.
It's right here.
$31,680.10, and that appears to be 10 cents.
Thank you, County Attorney Enruth.
Chief Executive Gallagher, the total cost on this loader is $316,801. 316,801.
That's $316,801. Thank you. That's from Western States. That's item number 3 on your sheet.
That'd be a Caterpillar. The second bid is from RDO Equipment in Bozeman.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, the bid bond is the amount of 10%. And the bid is for $36,105.
Thank you, County Attorney Enruth. That was just the bid bond.
Chief Executive Gallagher, the Commissioners, the total price on this loader is $361,500. $361,500.
Thank you, Director Neri. That was on the RDO equipment, $361,500. When we get there. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you. Mr. Deere, could you tell us what type of vehicle that was for?
John Deere.
John Deere, thank you.
Chief Executive, this next bid is also from RDO.
Okay.
Well, see, one's a John Deere, one's something else. So it's a different option for both.
Probably two different pieces of equipment, different
Like John
models.
Deere Caterpillar.
Or different models that they're bidding both.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, the bid amount is for 10%. It's from RDO again. This bid is for $32,300.
Chief Executive.
Thank you, County Attorney
Chief
Enroth.
Executive Gallagher, the total on this loader is $323,000 even.
That's $323,000 even from RDO, item number 2 on the bid documents.
Also John Deere.
Also John
Also
Deere.
John Deere.
Yep.
The next bid is from Tri-State out of Billings.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, the bid bond amount is for 10%, which will be in the amount of
In here.
$36,945.17. Oh,
Thank-
$36,954.17.
Thank you, County Attorney Enroth.
Chief Executive Gallagher, the total price on this loader is $369,541.72. $369,541.72.
That's $369,541.72. And what is the model on that?
Volvo.
Volvo. Okay. Thank you, Director Neri.
We also have another bid from Tri-State out of Billings.
Okay.
Commissioner Gallagher, or excuse me, Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, the bid bond amount for Tri-State out of Billings is 10% in the amount of $37,687.06.
Thank you, County Attorney Enroth.
Chief Executive Gallagher, the total price on this loader is $376,870.86. $376,870.86.
That's $376,870.86. And again, that's a Volvo?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Looks like we have one more, sorry. This one's from Torgerson's Equipment in Belgrade. Oh, this is a compactor. Good, this one.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, The bid bond does not have a specific percentage, but is for the amount of $35,200. Yes, which appears to be 10% of the overall price.
Thank you, County Attorney Enruth.
Chief Executive Gallagher, the total price on this is $352,000 even.
That's
352,000.
$352,000 even, and that's from Torgerson. And what is the equipment type that they have?
I believe it's a case.
Case. Okay. Thank you. All right. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I'll move to refer Communication 24-582 to the Public Works Department and await their recommendation.
We have a motion and a second to refer communication number 2024-582 to the Works Department. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And jumping the gun. And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
12 yea, 0 nay.
12 yea, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving on to item number 6, communication number 2025-17, Mark Neary, Public Works Director, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to schedule a bid opening on January 22nd, 2025 for a compactor for the landfill. Director Neary.
Chief Executive Gallagher, looks like we have 2 bids for the compactor. The first one's from Tri-State out of Billings.
Yeah, and it says 10%.
10% of the total.
Yep, so whatever the total is.
Right.
Yep. Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, the bid bond is for 10% of the total. The total is $997,711.28. It appears to be 10%.
Okay, could you read that total again for us? Director
Chief
Neary?
Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, the total price on the compactor is $997,711.28. $997,711.28.
Thank you, Director Neary. So $997,711.28. Okay. Volvo. Okay. Volvo.
The second bid is from Torgerson's in Belgrade.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, the bid bond appears to be 10% in the amount of $81,000 even.
Thank you, County Attorney Enruth.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, the total price on this compactor is $810,000 even.
That's $810,000 even. And what is the model of this?
Bomag.
Bomag. Okay. Thank you, Director Neary. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I do just want to point out the engineering estimate on these bid forms is phenomenal, so thank you for doing that. I'll make a motion that we refer communication 25-17 to the Public Works Department and await their recommendation.
We have a motion and a second to move the communication number, God, I just lost it, 25-17 to the Public Works Department. Is there anything on the question? Is there anything on the, could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
12 yea, 0 nay.
12 yea, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving on to item number 7, communication number 2025-24, Jim Keenan, Water Plant Superintendent, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to schedule a bid opening on January 22nd for supplying chemicals to be used by Butte-Silver Bow Water Treatment and Wastewater Treatment Plants and Ridge Waters Water Park. Is Director Keenan, or Mr. Keenan present today? Oh, you're here too. Okay, sure. Sorry. Public Works Director Neri. I was looking for Mr. Keenan.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, looks like we have 6 bids, 7 bids for the chemicals. The first one is from Shannon Chemical out of Malvern, Pennsylvania.
Commissioner Mankins.
Chief Executive Gallagher, before Director Neary opens it, do they have the option to bid certain chemicals as they did in the past, or is that still an option, or just a one-time package?
Commissioner Mankins, Director Neary.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioner Mankins, they can bid individual chemicals. They don't have to bid all of them.
Thank you, Director Neary.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, the bid bond is in the amount of 10%.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, this company bid on 2 of the chemicals. The first one was 50% citric acid at $1.18 a pound, and the other one was that orthophosphate corrosion inhibitor, $1.22 a pound.
Okay. So that is 50% at $1.18 a pound, and the, what was the other one?
Phosphate corrosion.
Phosphate corrosion at $1.22 a pound. Okay. All right.
Yep.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Thank you.
So the sheet, I handed the commissioners all a sheet of last year's prices.
Oh, are these?
Because we really don't have an engineer's estimate.
Gotcha. Okay. So we're doing we won't be getting a total price, it'll be just by the pound on this. Okay. I didn't see that extra sheet over there.
The second bid is from Hawkins, and they out of Roseville, Minnesota.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, the bid bond amount from CNA Surety is in the amount of
Mark
10%. There it is.
Thank you, County Attorney Enruth. Yep.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, they bid on 5 of the 7 chemicals.
Okay.
The first one is 25% sodium hydroxide. That was $864 per dry ton.
Could you say that again?
$1,864 per dry ton.
Okay.
The 50% sodium hydroxide was $1,280.
That's a ton.
Price per pound.
A pound.
No, that was dry ton too, I'm sorry.
Okay. Wow.
50% citric acid was $1.18 per pound. Liquid chlorine was $1.23 a pound. Orthophosphate corrosion inhibitor was 98 cents per pound. And liquid aluminum chlorohydrate was 59 cents a pound.
Okay, so we'll go back over that. So 25% sodium hydroxide is $1,864 a ton.
Yep.
The 50% sodium hydroxide is $1,280 a ton. 50% citric acid was $118 a pound. Liquid chlorine was $123 a pound. Orthophosphate corrosion inhibitor was 98 cents a pound. And liquid aluminum chlorohydrate is 59 cents a pound. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you. Everyone get that?
The next bid is from Thatcher out of Salt Lake City.
No relation to Commissioner.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, the bid bond amount is in the amount of 10%.
Thank you, County Attorney Enruth.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, sodium hypochlorite solution is $3.39 per gallon. 25% sodium hydroxide is $1,650 per dry ton. 50% sodium hydroxide is $1,139 per dry ton. 50% citric acid was $1.19 per pound. Liquid aluminum sulfate is $629 per dry ton. Liquid chlorine was $1.24 per pound. Orthophosphate corrosion inhibitor, oh no, but I didn't even have to say it. Liquid aluminum chlorohydrate is 41 cents per pound. That was it.
Okay, so let me go back over those. Sodium hypochlorite solution, $3.39 a gallon. 25% sodium hydroxide is $1,650 per ton. 50% sodium hydroxide is $1,139 a ton. 50% citric acid is $119 a ton. Liquid aluminum sulfate, $629 a ton. Liquid chlorine is $124 a gallon, or a pound, I apologize. And liquid aluminum chlorohydrate is 41 cents, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
The next bid is from Usulco out of Baltimore, Maryland.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, the bid bond amount is 10% of the overall bid, sorry.
Thank you, County Attorney Enruth.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, they bid on liquid aluminum chlorohydrate, 43 cents per pound.
And that's the only one?
Yep.
So that's 43 cents for liquid aluminum chloride per pound, 43 cents. Okay.
The next bid is from Univar Solutions out of Kent, Washington.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, the bid bond amount is in the amount of 10%.
Thank you, County Attorney Enruth.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, they bid on D, which is 50% citric acid, $1.19 a pound.
Okay.
And H, liquid aluminum chlorohydrate, 41 cents per pound.
So that's item number D, 50% citric acid at $1.19 a pound, and item H, liquid aluminum chlorohydrate at 41 cents a pound.
Yes.
Thank you, Director Neri.
The last bid is from EOC out of Bourne, Maryland.
Are we missing one other
No,
one?
it's not the last one. There's
Okay, I was gonna say,
Sorry.
teasing everybody here.
Percentage anywhere?
Well, that's the total.
No, the total's 55,000. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
so
sorry.
there it is here.
That's the bid bond, sorry.
Yep. Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, the bid bond amount is for $5,532, which appears to be 10% of the overall bid.
Thank you, County Attorney Enruth.
Chief Executive Gallagher, the total, or they bid on I, Micro C 2000, $4.61 a gallon.
Okay, is that the only bid? Okay, so that's item number I, Micro C 2000 or equivalent, $4.61 a gallon. Okay,
Yes.
thank you, Director Neri.
The final bid is from Camira Water Solutions out of Lawrence, Kansas.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, the bid bond amount is 10% of the overall bid.
Thank you, County Attorney Enruth.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, they bid on E, liquid aluminum sulfate, at $785 a ton.
And that's the only bid? Okay. So that's on item E, liquid aluminum sulfide at $785 a ton. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I make a motion that we refer communication, or the bids, communication 25-24 to the Public Works Department and await their recommendation.
We have a motion and a second, communication number 2025-24 back to the Public Works Department. Is there anything on the question? Commissioner Fisher and then Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Director Neary, are these FOB freight to Butte, or do we pay freight on top of this?
Commissioner Fisher, Director Neary.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioner Fisher, it's here, delivered here.
FOB, okay, thank you.
Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Just looking at the 2024 pricing for the liquid aluminum sulfate, it's listed as 52.5 cents, but the bid unit is a dry ton. So if you could clarify that, and then the bids were $629 a ton. Do you want?
Is this?
So, Commissioner, yeah, Director Neary, on the 2024 pricing, I see what Commissioner Shea is saying. It has that 52.5 cents a ton. It probably was $525, but you might want to find out if that's correct.
What chemical was it on?
So that's on a liquid aluminum sulfite, a dry ton.
Okay, it was 52 cents?
Yeah, I would probably say that that was a mistake on the sheet. So it had the 2024 pricing.
Yeah, and that's how I read it. $785 a ton.
They're saying on the 2024, it was
Yeah.
labeled at 52 cents, which probably was $520. They're saying a typo.
Oh.
You think they moved a decimal point, a couple decimal points there?
On this one?
Yeah, just on that one. It looks like that one might be the only one that is out of line there. It looks like it probably, if that was betting man, but we probably want to check that the 2024 pricing was, it says 52.5 cents, but I would believe it's probably $525 a dry ton.
Yes, because the total on this is 128,740, so it's anywhere from 135 to 164 tons, so
yeah,
it was probably an error on this one.
Yeah. We'll look into that and get that corrected, just to make sure what that pricing was on 2024. Thank you for recognizing that, Commissioner Shea. Okay. Director Morgan.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you very much. Mr. Neary, before you leave, how much of these individual chemicals, gallon, dry ton, et cetera, do you know how much of each of these chemicals we went through last year? Or was the bid was for?
Commissioner Anderson, Director Neary.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioner Anderson, I'm not positive on how much we used, but we only get by for the year. And there was a couple of chemicals that we did not bid this year because we had a
surplus.
A surplus, yes. But I can't give you the definite number.
Okay, thank you.
Is that okay? Okay, thank you, Director Neary.
Motion's already made.
Okay, sorry, motion's already made. Could commissioners please vote? Thank you for that.
We had to ask.
Oh, Mr. Neary. Mark.
And would anyone
Could she
like?
get her sheet back?
And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
Thank you.
12 yea, 0 nay.
12 yea, 0 nay, 0 nay, motion passes. Excited to get past that one. All right. Moving on to Section 2, consent agenda, A 1 through 4 and B 1 through 22. Do we have any friendly amendments and/or segregations? Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I'd like to segregate out of the Committee of the Whole report number 8, 25-18.
That's out of the Committee of the Whole report, item number 8, communication number 2025-18. Any other friendly amendments? Commissioner Thatcher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I spoke with County Attorney Enruth earlier, and I'd just like to make a friendly amendment to Resolution Number 2025-06. It should say State versus Shania O'Brien instead of Shaney O'Brien.
Okay.
Where is that at?
What number is that? So that's, okay. So that's under Section 5, Resolution Number 2025-06, and a friendly amendment to correct that spelling.
But we're not there yet.
Oh, I can't make
Okay. No, we're not to that, because that's Section 5. So we'll do that when we get to Section 5. Yep. Okay, thanks for pointing that out. Are there any other, Commissioner O'Leary?
Yes, I'd like to just segregate Communication 1, 2025-26.
That's item number 1, communication number 2025-26. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Could I segregate number 5, 25-30?
That's item number 5, communication number 2025-30. Are there any other friendly amendments and or segregations? Seeing none, Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I would make a motion that we approve the consent agenda, section A, the committee reports 1 through 4, with the exclusion of number 8, 25-18, and out of communications B, 1 through 22, with the exclusions of number 1, 25-26, and number 5, 25-30.
We have a motion and a second to approve tonight's consent agenda. Is there anything on the question? Please vote. And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
12 yea, 0 nay.
12 yeas, 0 nay. Motion passes. Moving to the Committee of the Whole report, item number 8, communication number 2025-18. Eric Hassler, Reclamation and Environmental Services Director, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization for Chief Executive Gallagher to submit comments on EPA's proposed plan to amend the remedial action for the Butte Priority Soils Operable Unit BIPSU proposed plan, October 2024. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I just wanted to segregate this because I believe Director Hassler has an update on the letter to present to this body. And the other reason that I wanted to segregate is I just want to do a reminder that this letter is due to be sent out on February 14th. We do have a Committee of the Whole meeting on the 12th. However, in order for this council to take final action on this communication to meet that deadline, we will be voting on this on February 5th at our regular meeting. So just so everybody's aware, February 5th, we will be taking action on this item.
Sure. Do you want to hand it out first, or do we want to?
Sure.
Why don't we hand it out, and then we'll have you, if that will work. Are we short one?
Oh.
Got 2. Okay.
I was going to say, I thought I could count.
There's no. Okay. I believe everybody has one now. So welcome, Director Hassler.
Chief Executive, members of council. As the Chief Executive mentioned in his report, we had listened to the comments that we had received amongst this body over the last couple meetings. and have took the opportunity to revamp the letter with those comments in mind. We had mainly changed the structure of the letter and put more emphasis in regards to the need to expedite the time frame and more emphasis on the further expansion of the boundary to include the Greeley not the Greeley neighborhood, but the Margaret Leary neighborhood that was excluded in the boundary adjustments. So at this point, I really don't know where to proceed with you not seeing the letter till right at this point in time. We can go over it. I could read it. I don't really know how to move forward.
Yeah.
So.
Commissioner, Director House, I just we put emphasis on the 3 main points. Now we move those to the front saying these are the most important things, and then we kind of put in the questions after. Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I would suggest attaching this copy of the letter to the agenda. So it's out. So this letter is out in the public record.
Yep.
I did scan over that. I went right to that section. And if you don't mind, I'll read it.
Yeah.
So it says, Butte-Silver finds the agency's anticipated 25-year timeline for completing the additional sampling and remedial activities as entirely unacceptable. The Butte community is unwilling to support this timeframe and expects the agency to reevaluate the proposed timeline and develop plans to complete the required remedial activities in a significantly shorter period of time. This timeframe reduction will require substantially more resources to be committed to the project by both the responsible parties and the agencies. The current resource levels will not be acceptable to achieve this goal.
Thank you, Commissioner Shea. Is there any questions? Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. The only thing that I would add off of Commissioner Shea's request is I would ask our council secretary, Ms. Davies, to add this to the agenda on the committee of the whole as from Mr. Hassler. So we'll remember that. So.
And can we just send that to Barb electronically? Yeah.
Chief Executive Gallagher, members of commissioners of the commission will do that tomorrow.
Okay.
We'll send an electronic copy to Barb.
Okay. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I personally plan on using the letters from Fritz Daly and Moose Patrice, and I'm going to have a letter that I concur with their thoughts rather than write my own personal letter. It won't go through the council, but I'll send it off to the EPA, to the address there. I'll be sending it out this week. And any commissioner that would like to join me, once I get the letter, you're welcome to sign it, and I'll send it out. So that's just my own doing on it. So I appreciate all that you've done, and I think as long as we can get that time frame cut back to about 5 years, I think we'll be doing real well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. And everybody, this body, we're sending this from Butte-Silver and with concurrence of this body, but any member of the commission, of the public, can go onto the EPA's website, put in their own personal comments to the EPA's suggested time frame. That nobody is limited to not do that. And the one thing about it, for the public to understand and everybody to understand, the EPA has to respond to every single public comment that is there. So that's the opportunity for anybody in the public, anybody up here that would like to comment, that they're able to do so. Thanks. Any other public comment? Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. With that being said, I would like to just make a motion that we hold communication 2025-18 in the committee of the whole.
We have a motion and a second to hold communication number 2025-18 in the committee of the whole. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
12 yea, 0 nay. 12 yea, 0 nay.
12 yea, 0 nay. Motion passes. Moving back to item number 1, communication number 2025-26. J.P. Gallagher, Chief Executive, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence of the appointment of Russell O'Leary, 524 West Silver Street, Butte, Montana, to the Historic Preservation Commission. Commissioner O'Leary.
Chief Executive Gallagher, this is more just an amendment than anything. The address that was put on this communication is an old address. I don't know exactly how that happened, but I think maybe it got pulled off an old form. For the record, my address is 2080 Beef Trail Road in Butte.
Thanks, Commissioner O'Leary. I would just like to respond to that. I believe, Commissioner O'Leary, as a private citizen, was once part of the Historic Preservation Board previously, and Annie Boyd, our secretary in our admin assistant in the chief executive's office, keeps track of those records, and I think she might have used the last form that she had when he was part of the historic preservation. I'll double check that to make sure that's where that mistake came from. But with that, is there any questions of commissioners? Okay, Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. With that, I'll just make a motion that we concur with Communication 25-26 and place on file as amended.
We have a motion and a second to concur and place on file as amended communication number 2025-26. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
12 yea, 0 nay.
12 yea, 0 nay, motion passes. Motion passes. Moving on to item number 5, communication number 2025-30, Mary McCormick, Maiwa Society Vice Chair, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to conduct the Chinese New Year parade through Uptown area on February 1st, 2025, beginning at 3 p.m. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. Excuse me, a little bit hoarse today. Anyway, the only reason I segregated this was just to speak on it a little bit. This goes through my district. It's one of my favorite activities of the year for people out there listening. It's a great event. It's very loud. It's very noisy. It's a beautiful walk through Uptown Butte. They don't have the firecrackers anymore, which is a disappointment to myself, and I'm sure a lot of other 12-year-olds and 2-year-olds at heart. I'm not going to comment where I stand. But anyway, if the weather is cooperating, it's a wonderful event. If the weather's not cooperating, it's still a wonderful event if you dress properly. So I would encourage everybody here and out there listening to put it on your calendar. And if you would like to see the dragon up close and personal, I believe it will be downstairs in the rotunda. It's a great celebration of part of our community and heritage, and I encourage everybody to go to it. And with that, I will concur with Communication 25-30 and place this on file.
We have a motion and a second to concur and place on file communication number 2025-30. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
12 yea, 0 nay.
12 yea, 0 nay, motion passes. We don't, was that the last of our segregations? Yes, it was. Okay. Moving on to Section 3, communications to be read and acted upon. We already did one, but we'll do the other. Item number 1, communication number 2025-35, Kelly Sullivan, BLDC Director, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization for Chief Executive Gallagher to sign a second loan modification on the Anaconda ARCO loan fund that was made through BLDC to the Praxis Center. Do we have BLDC Director Sullivan in the audience? So with that, I just ask for an update on this communication, and then we'll. I think, yeah, there you go.
There we go. Mr. Rogers with Praxis Center came to us last year and asked if we could do an extension on the closing of construction financing deadline from July of this past year to April of 2025, April 30th. Our loan committee at that time said that we would not do the modification yet, but give him a couple of months to perhaps get that construction financing in place. He still had some work to do, so is still asking for the extension to April 30th of 2025. Right now, he's making interest-only payments. He's been an excellent loan client of ours, and our loan committee is recommending this action.
Thank you, Director Sullivan. Is there any questions of commissioners? Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I tried reading through this, but I guess, what is the total amount owed? And, I mean, what's the interest rate? Have we got payments? You said he's a good client, but I read $659,978, then I read $130,000 and $47,000, then I read $221,000. Is the $659 the total of all of these added together?
Commissioner Fisher, Director Sullivan.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioner Fisher, no, the total is right around $800,000. And the portion that I'm asking Butte-Silver about is the funds that came from the Anaconda Arco Loan Fund that comprise part of that $800,000. And the amount on that is $221,959.
Thank you, Director Sullivan. Follow-up, Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. So what kind of interest rate are we doing on this?
I do not know the interest rate off the top of my head. I apologize.
Follow-up, Commissioner Fisher, and then Commissioner Morgan.
So if we're only paying interest, I'm just kind of curious how much we're collecting every month there. You know, if we're collecting only interest and we don't even know how much we're collecting in interest every month, I think it's kind of a vague ask right now, because I read through this and I see a lot of blank spaces. I mean, you know, it just says the date, January 25, then there's blank spaces there. When you go down below, I see a beginning on January 22nd, 25 through May 26th, they're all blank spaces. I mean, I'm all for the practice center, don't get me wrong. But I think, as I stated before when we had talked about this, the BLDC and the Council of Commissioners need a little more report about what's going on here. And I think we should know how we're getting paid back should things go south on this deal, because $800,000 is an investment that would help a lot of small businesses in Butte try to get going. And I'm all for Ray Rogers in the Praxis Center, but I do think we just need a little better handle on how we're getting our money. And I see that the collateral's there, but I guess I'm a little different when I look at risk and reward. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. I'm not sure.
I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
Mr. Rogers is here. I don't know if he wants to add anything.
I think Commissioner Morgan had a question. If there's something that we can have Commissioner or have Ray come up and speak if needed. Okay. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I just had a couple questions, Ms. Sullivan. So when you say the construction portion funds is going to be in April 30th, is that like a balloon payment that would come?
That is the date by which he would have, in a perfect world, he would have construction financing in place. Excuse me, Commissioner Morgan, Chief Executive Gallagher.
Thank you.
He would have the construction financing in place and would be able to make full payments, not just interest-only payments.
Thank you, Director Sullivan. And Commissioner Morgan, do you have more questions?
Yes, just
Okay.
one. Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. So in the event, if the council doesn't approve this request, what happens?
We would go back to our loan.
Hold up. Commissioner Morgan, Director Sullivan.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioner Morgan, we would bring this back to our loan committee for advisement.
Thank you, Director Sullivan. Okay. Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Kelly, thank you. Just a question. So that's where I was just confused on the number part, because it said there's 6 promissory notes, and I'll date it when I date them, or excuse me, when I add them all up, including the Anaconda, when I come to 1.5 million. And then you mentioned the 800,000. So was that since these originated, has some of this been paid down? I could have added wrong too as well, but.
Some has been paid down, Commissioner O'Neill,
Okay.
Chief Executive
Yeah,
Gallagher.
okay, that's all right. Follow-up, Commissioner
Thank
O'Neill?
you. Thank you, that's, I mean, I guess that's a good thing, right? That's half 1.5 down to the 800. If that's the total, that's good. Again, that's where that's confusing on where, like, we don't really, in this agreement, we don't know what the amount is that we're, I mean, you told us what the amount is, but in writing, and the change in terms, it doesn't specify what the amount is. Just if I could just go a little bit longer,
Yep.
so.
Yes.
I mean, obviously fees too, I mean, if he is paying these monthly, is there a fee involved in the change, or is it just sign it and move forward?
Commissioner O'Neill, Director Sullivan.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioner O'Neill, there is not. We would just sign it and move forward.
Thank you, Director Sullivan. Any other questions? Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Mr. Rogers, being that you're in the audience, I would ask you a question. Why do you feel that this body should grant this extension? How can you assure us of what we're making a decision on? How do we move forward? That kind of thing.
Commissioner Morgan, Mr. Rogers.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioner Morgan, members of the council. The loan that we have with BLDC has many parts to it, of which one of the parts is the ARCO loan fund. This loan that we have was to purchase the land for the Praxis Center. Since the inceptional loan, the agreement with Butte Local Development Corporation was to make interest-only payments until such time that we completed our construction financing. Once we complete construction financing, there is about I think it's around $132,000 interest reserve built into that financing that pays for the loan for the principal and interest during construction. And then once once construction is completed, we would then take out the entire loan with permanent financing. So all we're asking for at this point is just to have some additional time to finalize our financing, and we're working hard on getting that done at this point. And we're current on all of our loan payments to BLDC. We are also current on all of our taxes on the property. We're just asking for some additional time to get to the finish line on this project. I would note that having been a board member of the Butte Local Development Corporation for 8 years and a chair of their board for 2 years, the intent of the BLDC is to do exactly this. It's to provide these types of loans with terms that allow businesses like the one we're doing, Praxis, to have an opportunity to succeed. And so what we're asking is that we have some flexibility in the terms to extend the interest-only payments out until we complete construction financing, which time interest reserve will kick in and carry it forward. Does that answer it?
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Is it all right if I have a little bit? I just like to say I am represented on the BLDC board, and I will say that we talk about the different loans that we have out there, and one of the things that is important is the loans we have out and the businesses that we're working with are current. That is one thing that this loan has never fallen out of, making their payments, staying current on that. And that's a conversation that we have, because it may be a different conversation where the BLDC's position would have been coming forward to bring this to this body to ask for this approval. So I just wanted to put that out there as well. Commissioner Healy.
Thank you. I am new, and so I was just wondering, how long has this process been going on as far as total time? Like, what year did it start?
Commissioner Healy and Mr. Rogers. Go ahead.
Chief Executive Gallagher, members of the commission, this project has been going on for me for a long time.
probably about 6 years now full-time. Of course, right in the middle of all of this, we had COVID, and the result of COVID, of course, was massive increases in construction costs, almost tripling the cost of our project. So the project has been delayed, but we continue to make great progress in moving this project ahead. I gave a very detailed report to the council a couple months ago in which I explained exactly where we're at with this process. And, but yeah, it's been a long time in the making, but we're doing this for the community of Butte, and we're continuing to move ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Thank you, Ray, and I do appreciate the presentation you gave us. Okay, June 10th, 2026, the final payment is a balloon payment. That's 16 months away. What path forward do we have to make that balloon payment?
Commissioner Fisher, Mr. Rogers.
Chief Executive Gallagher, members of the council, the path forward is this. We're currently working right now with a international institutional investor to get the final financing on the project. We have a meeting on February 5th with that organization. Once they make their final determinations, then they have about a 60-day due diligence period, after which they said they could approve final financing on the project. In this case, they would buy out the land, so that would close immediately. Because under the terms with this organization, they would build the building for us, they'd purchase the land, and we'd have just a long-term lease. So we wouldn't have to worry about a balloon payment in this scenario. They would simply buy out the land, and we'd close on the BLDC loan immediately.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Follow-up, Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Thank you, Ray. As you know, I'm a full support. It just does concern me when we're within 16 months of that much of a balloon payment. I mean, you know, if you got to refinance a balloon payment somewhere or somehow, that makes the lending institutions a little bit more leery of a risk and reward. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it, and I have no problem with extending the loan, and as long as you feel we're still on track. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Morgan, were you next? Oh, I thought you had your hand up. Anyone else? Okay. So with this, we'll go to you, Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, Commissioner Morgan, question.
Ms. Sullivan, just so I'm aware, Fisher got me all mixed up on balloon payments and stuff. This is only to extend the loan till the end of April of 2025, correct?
Commissioner Morgan, Director Sullivan.
Yes, the interest-only payments.
Okay.
Thank you, Director Sullivan. Thank you, Commissioner Morgan. Okay, Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Chief Executive. I just have a question. I got to get to the thing here. Now you got me going, Mr. Morgan and Fisher, so I'm sorry. It's reading's really hard for me, so just bear with me. Usually Mankins or Anderson reads this stuff for me, but they're not doing it right now. I scrolled too far, because in here it does say of 26. So would that be, Kelly, would that be, they have till April 30th of 2000. Let me start with this question. I apologize. Borrower shall have executed and delivered this agreement to the lender by no later than April 30th, 2025. So we're extending, so they won't have any interest payments until April 30th of 2025?
Commissioner O'Neill,
Sorry.
Director Sullivan.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioner O'Neill. No, they will continue interest-only payments. I apologize if that wording is incorrect. If you think something's incorrect, and I can have our loan director look at it.
No, this would be good, sorry.
Yeah,
One more.
follow,
And then just
Commissioner O'Neill.
Then the balloon will go till, it won't balloon until June 10th of 2026.
Commissioner O'Neill, Director Sullivan.
Chief Executive, Commissioner O'Neill, that is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
And just for for the good of the order of whatever, yeah, I mean, obviously, just questions, it's not, definitely not negative feedback. It is a lot of money, and when you're adding up certain ones and you don't know what, I still don't know where we come up with the 800 grand, but I'll just trust your word on that. Obviously, you guys had some balloon pay or some heavy payments down from these, so that's awesome. I don't know how, I mean, were there principal payments made? Because if it was just interest only, that's where it doesn't add up when I calculate it out. So, but whatever, if it's 800 or 1.5 million, it's fine. It's all going to come out somewhere in the end, and fully support it 100%. But it's, and you know, we're on your side, and can't wait for it to go down. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Morgan.
Thanks, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I would make a motion that we concur with Communication 25-35 and place on file.
We have a motion and a second to concur and place on file communication number 2025-35. Is there anything else on the question? Commissioners, please vote. And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
12 yea, 0 nay.
12 yea, 0 nay, motion 0 nay, motion passes. Moving on to Section 4, ordinances and resolutions for final reading. We have one, resolution number 2025-05. Clerk, please read the caption.
A resolution requesting appointment of a special deputy prosecutor from a Prosecution Service Bureau of the Department of Justice and providing for an effective date herein.
Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I move to place Council Resolution 2025-05 on final reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length.
We have a motion and a second to place resolution number 2025-05 on final reading. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
12 yea, 0 nay.
12 yea, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving on to Section 5, ordinances, resolutions for emergency suspension of the rules. We have one, resolution number 2025-06. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move for the suspension of the rules for the purpose of passing Council Resolution 25-06 by waiving subsection 7 of the Rule 36 of the Rules of Order of the Council of Commissioners, thereby having it considered for advanced passage without reference to the Judiciary Committee.
We have a motion and a second suspending the rules, placing resolution number 2006 on final reading. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote. I think Commissioner Healy hit the wrong button. Am I correct? Yeah. So just give a thumbs up, we'll see. Okay.
So 12 yea, 0 nay.
12 yea, 0 nay. Motion passes. Motion passes. That happens. Moving back to resolution number 2025-06. Clerk, please read the caption.
Whereas the Butte-Silver County Attorney has requested prosecutorial assistance in the case of State Jamie James in the state of versus Shaney O'Brien, and whereas it is desired and deemed appropriate and special deputy county attorney to be appointed to assist in the prosecution of the formation case, and whereas Montana Code annotated 44411 authorizes and contemplates that the training coordinator for the county attorney and the Bureau of Chief of Prosecution Service Bureau together within the deputies within said borough, acts as a special counsel on the request of the county attorney and upon the approval of the Board of County Commissioners in Wares, Montana Code, annotated 2-15-5016, authorizes the county general to provide assistance to the county attorney in the discharge of his or her duties.
Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Before I make a motion, I would just ask for Commissioner Thatcher to address the typo change, please.
Commissioner Thatcher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Yes, so I just would be concerned because there isn't a Shani O'Brien versus state. It's Shania O'Brien versus the state. So if we're approving something that says Shani, that doesn't even exist.
So we're just asking to correct that on there. So do we know the correct spelling?
I could defer that one to County Attorney Enruth.
Okay.
Yes.
County
the
Attorney
correct-
Enruth.
Excuse me, Commissioner Gallagher, or excuse me, Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, the correct spelling is Shania, not E.
Okay.
It should be Shania.
So with that correction and moving forward, we'll go to Commissioner Morgan. And you already made a motion, am I correct? Or no, okay, just deferred, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I move to place Council Resolution 2025-06 on final reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length as amended.
We have a motion and a second, placing resolution number 2025-06 on final reading. Is there anything on the question? As amended. Is there anything on the question? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
12 yea, 0 nay.
12 yeas, 0 nay, motion passes. Motion passes. The calendar and meeting events is listed on there, and so we'll move on to any public comment on any matter not on the agenda tonight. If you'd like to speak on anything not on the agenda tonight, come forward, state your name, address, and what you'd like to speak about. Seeing none, I would take a motion to adjourn. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.